Green Bay hustle, grind it up. Hit the field, we don't bluff. Touchdown dances, feel the love. Jordan's got that MVP stuff. It's time for Ohio, let's go. Packers bringing that show. It's time for you know who. Wanna go, gonna glow.
All right. Welcome back to the Ohana Packers Edition podcast, the podcast where we are going over Packers draft needs. Packers hold the brain fart already. It's early in the morning, 23rd pick in the 2025 draft. We're off to a rip roaring start. Today, we have Brian Maafi on to talk about cornerbacks. And to give a quick refresher, cornerback room is a little devoid of talent right now, or talent that's certain to be on roster next season. So as of right now, guys, you've got signed through 2025 of any sort of weight is Jair, who has some big question marks. Goot and LaFleur need to do some damage control and assessment there, but that's their job. Their job is to try and retain talent, see what's going to go with that. Carrington Valentine, and then Keyshawn Dixon, and that's it. That's like the notable signed corners through 2025 at this point. I know they've got some futures contracts, but those are about as lottery ticket signings as possible at this point in time. So, Brian, first off, thank you for coming back again. I know Joe kind of holds you at gunpoint on these ones, but always appreciate you coming on. And the way we get around that too is that you record during the daytime and Joe can't, so it's just you and me, buddy. But first off, we talk about it all the time. I know that it sparks a lot of conversation on Twitter and Blue Sky, but Packers trends and thresholds, what are those for cornerback tend to be?
Yeah, generally it's about 5'10" and a half at height. Obviously Jair is a little bit shorter. He's 5'10" and a quarter, but so Goody will make an exception here or there, but that's basically what it is you're looking at. About 5'10" and a half, about 190, and then at least 31-inch arms for if they're going to be an outside corner. If they view him as a slot, they'll take guys with a little bit shorter arms, like 30 and a half, I think it is, something like that. And then obviously just high RAS scores, 8 plus.
I laugh because this is one of those positions where they've tried to buck the trend a couple times and it has bit them in the ass. And like the Rollins pick comes to mind. And then another one that is to a lesser extent, but it was still kind of important because it was in a draft where they needed corners, was the I'm forgetting Shamar John Charles, where it was like you kind of needed another corner. You got Stokes, you kind of needed another corner in that draft, and then you took a guy that was like a marginal athlete that a lot of people were like slot size slot athlete, but it's like he never played slot in college. So yeah, you'd like to hope that they're past the stage of fitting square pegs in round holes, but like you said, we'll see.
We'll see.
I do, it's only a year, but it is nice that Hafley does seem to put guys in their relatively best roles as much as the current roster construction allows them to and stuff. But those are the thresholds. We'll see that, and we'll just jump right in, Brian. Round one options. Who are the guys that just off the bat, if they're there at 23, you can see Goot jumping at this point?
Yeah, so probably Amos from Mississippi, Ole Miss, Trey Amos.
Jake
He's one of
Shaving's favorite.
who's
Jake Shaving's boy,
oh
his golden boy.
right. Yeah, he started off at Louisiana Lafayette, and then he transferred up to Alabama last year. And last year they played him in the kind of the slot, which is not really his best position. I think kind of it seemed like people kind of forgot about him, and then he played Ole Miss this year. He played outside this year, and he kind of got his shine back, I guess, or whatever you want to call it from the media. There's an outside chance too, as Azariah Thomas from Florida State. He's kind of actually, you know me, I'm not really a huge comp guy, but I was kind of thinking about it the other day. I think he kind of reminds me a little bit of Mike McKenzie, a little bit. So I think that's kind of a good, decent comp
I
for
can
him.
see it. Yeah, more of a fluid athlete than like a truly explosive one, but really uses his size well and knows what kind of corner he is. I think that's really important with these kind of guys.
Yeah, not really a big ball production type guy. Like, although just today he had that one-hand interception with the Senior Bowl.
With where the Wazoo receiver took 2 days to get off the line of scrimmage on his own accord, but
Gotta
hey,
gotta
gotta have guys who can find the ball, right?
gotta
But
set up moves on top of moves on top of moves, right? To get open.
I'm gonna toss the softball up for you because we've talked about him before because he's your guy. But Maxwell Hairston, sell Packers fans on Maxwell Hairston.
Yeah, a little disappointed in his measurements, but other than that, he's he came in at 5'11", about buck 80, so he's like about 10 pounds off. So I mean, we'll see as far as the weight, or if he can get his weight up at the combine or for the combine, I should say. But yeah,
Doesn't play
he's
like that weight though. That's kind of what's surprising about it. Yeah.
right. No, yeah. If you watched, if anybody watched Andrew Phillips from last year from Kentucky, he's similar. His play style is similar, but he's more of an outside corner, where Andrew Phillips is more of a slot. He's a physical dude, like I said, 5'11", 180. Physical dude. He's got decent speed, not like great speed, but he's got good speed. Pretty good athleticism, but he's a freaking dog, dude. Like he will take on 230-pound running backs head on, and he'll take them down. He doesn't care. He'll trash talk receivers. He'll get physical receivers. Really good ball skills too. Had I think 5 interceptions or something like that was last year. This year he had like a leg injury, so he missed like half of the season almost. And he just kind of wasn't himself when he came back. Obviously, he came back, I believe it was like about 2 games. But yeah, if you go back and watch his 2023 films, it was really good. Like I said, just a dude, just a dog. I mean, his play style would fit with what Goody likes, because he likes those physical guys who are willing to tackle, guys who can cover, guys who have good ball skills. He has man cover experience. Cover 1, cover 0, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
covers the cover 3 too. So he would fit in with their system.
Yeah, and I think people label Ja however they feel like, because they, I joke that the worst thing to be in as a Packer is the a free agent signing, especially a draft pick who got extended, because everyone who loved, not everyone, but 80% of the people who loved you hate you right after. We saw it happen to Clay. We're seeing it happen to Jair now and stuff. And it's, a lot of the stuff like you said, you listed about Hairston, it's a lot of stuff that Jair was known for doing, and kind of ironically, it's what got him started to being injury prone, is because he was not afraid of taking on Najee Harris in the flat and fucked up his shoulder in 2021. So,
Right.
I mean, it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. And not to get, we're focusing on the draft, but the reason that I'm hopeful that they'll keep Jair around is because I do still think there is a good player in there. I think his injuries were more freak than they have been like like a Christian Watson, where it's a repetitive same thing over and over and
Right.
over. Like, you have the shoulder in 21. This year you have the knee injury where I thought he blew his ACL out when he did it at the time, because his knee kind of buckled when he came down on it and stuff. And, last year he had the soft tissue, but it was never the same soft tissue. And I know that he's a smaller guy, he's getting older, but
Yeah.
you can't just expect it. As much as I do think Goot is going to do one of his 2 or 3 draft pick kind of, investments in the room, you
Right.
can't expect to, if you're expecting this team to take that next step into contention, you can't expect to turn over your whole cornerback room and, hand the keys to your vets being Valentine, who came on as the season went on, but also is still a 7th round pick, and Nixon, who, you know, played better as an outside corner, but still has his flaws as a player. So, you know, there would be a lot of holes to fill. So that's why I do think the route is for Goot to at least mend the fences and keep Ja around for 2025, and then you really have that conversation moving forward. But like we kind of touched on, this round 1 pick, and you can't, you know, Sharpie anything in, but if you can get like a Hairston or an Amos or even a Thomas, if you know, I know we joked that that's a guy that's a Goot pick all the way because he's young, you know, he's still 20 at this point. Yeah, he'll be 20 through the draft, like through OTAs basically. And you know, has the movement skills, the size, and Goot does seem to, you know, he has these weird like unicorn hunting things at different positions, and one of his as at corner is like, I'm gonna find, you know, he wants to find his Doug Evans basically, like his big, like his tall, strong cover corner, and I do want, you know, Amos kind of fits that bill. He's not necessarily the most physical guy, but he is that bigger cover corner guy. Thomas fits that bill to an extent. So,
Yep.
who are some guys, you know, and let's play the other side of it. Who are some guys that you, for either play style, they're not hitting thresholds? Who are guys that you don't think Green Bay would or should pick in the first round?
First round, it's not a lot of guys that are there that are going to likely be there at 23. But I see possibly Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame. We'll see. It's a couple things. He's got a smaller frame. Overall, size-wise, he's kind of in that range where he's kind of a Packer size. Last size measurements I had on him was about 6 foot 186 in the summer. But he's got a small frame. And then his injury history, that's going to scare off the Packers for sure. They don't like drafting guys coming off injuries. He had a shoulder in 2023, and then he had a hip this past year. So, in major injuries, major surgeries. So that's going to scare off the Packers, especially at least in the first round. Offhand, I don't know if there's any other. Just my list here real quick. You know, the guys that are really first round prospects, I would say that are that Packers would skip. I mean, there's Kobe Bryant from Kansas, but he's more of a second round guy. You know, you saw his measurements. He was 5'11", 170 pounds. He doesn't play to it. He plays bigger, more physical.
Yeah.
But at 170 pounds, the Packers going to scare the crap out of the Packers. Because otherwise he meets all the thresholds, but just 170 pounds, they're going to be like, no, yeah, no thanks.
That's a high school weight for some of us. So, and okay, we do it fans do it every year. They won't, because there's no way they're going to get either of these two guys. But of the two top of the class guys, and okay, first off, Hunter, is he a corner or a receiver for you?
Both. I mean, not in the sense probably people think, but like he's actually, I think he'll be somewhat similar to his head coach Deion Sanders in the NFL. So he'll play mostly corner, and then he'll play maybe 10 snaps a game wide receiver. They use him end around, so they use him in bubble screens. They'll use him just in slot. They use him outside. They just move him around, just try and get the ball in his hand again, make some plays with the ball in his hands. But he'll mostly play corner.
Yeah, and how slow would my guy Will Johnson have to run to get in range for the Packers to trade up? I'm just kidding. He's
4.6.
Yeah.
Maybe not even then. So
Yeah. But those are two guys that, what do you think? Top 5, top 10 probably kind of picks for both of them?
Travis probably go 1 or 2.
Yeah.
I mean, Will probably go like in the top 5-ish.
Yeah.
Top 8 at the worst.
Yeah. It's kind of the one rub on him is the last 2 years he's dealt with some like weird injuries and stuff, and Michigan is like really tight-lipped about what he's dealing with, but he's a playmaker. I think this year he kind of sold out at times to, you know, just force plays and stuff like that. You saw it in the Fresno State game this year where he was kind of like gambling at the line of scrimmage and stuff, but then, you know, he might get beat over the top, and corners do, but then you see him get a pick six at the end of that game to like shut the door on it, and you know, he has the big as a Michigan fan, the best thing I can say about him is that his best games were mostly in the biggest games that he played in. Like he basically like going back to 2022, Ohio State, or 22 and 23 really, Ohio State just didn't look at Marvin Harrison Jr. much if Johnson was on him pre-snap. Last year you saw kind of the why they were afraid of that because he gets the interception in the first quarter that sets up Michigan's first touchdown and stuff. And then national championship game, he has that diving interception. The Big Ten championship game 2 years ago, he has 2 interceptions of Aiden O'Connell. And so, I'll keep the love fest short because, like we said, there's no way Goot is trading into the top 8. I know some people are like, oh, like you can use like if you guys are so ready to ship Jair out the door, you're not getting anything worth value. Teams, as much as I joke that bad front offices do dumb things, teams are plugged into other teams really well, and if there's discontented player kind of thing, like they know that they're and even with as conservative as the Packers may be, and like I said, they're probably trying to do damage control and stuff like that, they're not gonna just be like, oh, here's a first round pick kind of thing and stuff. So those come in a blue moon and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, I wouldn't expect that kind of. If anything, for what you would get with Ja, I think the max would be like what they got for Javon Walker back in 2006 was like a second and I think like a fourth or a fifth or something like that. And I think that would be pushing it. But it's kind of similar situations. Guy coming off an injury the previous year, upset with the front office and stuff. But you're not getting a top half first round pick unless someone is just like really, I guess the fact that Jair's contract has 2 whole years on it helps, but at the same time, it's like other teams are like, okay, he's been injured the last 2 years, all that kind of stuff. But as you mentioned, there's not a ton of first round guys. I do think this is a deeper class than last year, where it was like, if you don't get one of these guys early, you're kind of like you and I were messaging back and forth. We were like, all right, who's left? Who's left that you would take at this point and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah,
this does in a way feel sort of like the 2020 receiver draft, where it's like there's like a handful ish guys that you've got in first round range, and then there's a lot of like day 2 and like day 3 guys that are going to fall to day 3 that you're like, okay, like those are names to work with. But surefire day 2 guys, who's on your radar
for Green Bay? A guy who some people have talked about a little bit, have some deja vu with, I guess. Quincy Riley from Louisville, similar. Yeah, I know, you see the look in your face. Yeah, the similar measurements to Jair. Not the same player, obviously, not the same skill set. Some similarities, but not enough. He's got a little bit thicker build, even though they're same size, about the same size. He's thicker build. He's not as fast, but he's pretty fast. He's probably gonna run like the low 4.4s. Jair was like 4.39, 4.3, something like that when he came out. But also you got another guy I kind of like, Tommy Hill from Nebraska. He's big dude. He came in at 6 foot 210 and 33-inch arms. So he's got really long arms. He's a big dude.
Nebraska always seems to find those big, like randomly, because like you had Prince Amukamara and who's that guy from the 2000s? Zach something. But yeah, they always just randomly have these big, like, and not just tall, they're like big corners too, like 200 and up kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. Not an elite athlete, but good enough athlete. I really like Melo Dawson from Kansas, Kobe Bryant's teammate. He's somewhat similar to Kobe Bryant, but he's a little bit bigger. Kobe's probably a little bit faster, straight line and stuff like that. But Melo's got the size and a little more physicality to him and stuff like that. Zay Alexander, LSU, he transferred up there a couple of years ago from a FCS school. Kind of blanking on what school it is right now, but he's 6'1", 192, 31-inch arms, so he's got that size. He's got really good speed, actually, too. He's still developing a little bit just because he was a FCS guy first. And then he struggled a little bit 2023, and then this year kind of came on a little bit. But he's still, he's still like, I would say, a quote-unquote developmental guy. Another guy, a lot of people like Noel Williams from Cal. Another guy that's good size, 6'1", 190-ish, physical, strong. Again, but that kind of average-ish, slightly above average athlete. So he's kind of in that range where he may or may not be fit the Packers thresholds as far as athleticism. but his size and his play style fits. He's has some versatility to him because he's played some in the box too, like at UNLV when he was at UNLV before he came to Cal, and I think a little bit even when he was at Cal, but mostly more UNLV. And then Carlin Vigors is another kind of a sleeper, maybe day three, maybe day two guy from Louisiana Monroe. Another big guy, 6 foot 188, 32-inch arms, decent speed, stuff like that. So I'm listening to who else? Yeah. Oh yeah, the other guy, Darian Porter from Iowa State. Older guy, but he's still developing because he came to Iowa State as a wide receiver, changed positions in 2022. He didn't really play much in 2022. Basically didn't play at all, basically, outside of special teams. 2023, he played a little bit. He's kind of back up, but became a starter this year and kind of really took off this year. 6'2", 192 pounds, I think it was. I'm trying to look at the numbers here real quick. Where do we get 6'2", 197 actually, sorry, at the combine, at the Senior Bowl. And then 33-inch arms, so got long arms. Decent athlete, good athlete. Not great, not elite, but good athlete. Got pretty good ball skills too. For you can tell obviously because he's a former receiver. Then Quincy Riley's teammate Corey Thornton, another good sized guy, 6 foot 184, 32-inch arms. Decent athlete again, physical guy, strong. Has some trouble with quick agile type guys, but he's another midday.
Yeah, I know we talked about thresholds and stuff, but and it's hard to say because they didn't draft. Well, I know they took Kalen King, but that was kind of a 7th-round flyer. But
Right.
I feel like they're going to look more for guys who can, flip their hips and mirror. Because we've kind of talked about it how Hafley would like to do more man concepts in his coverage, but the hand he was dealt this past year is kind of a broken hand and
Right.
incomplete and broken hand. But obviously, we're not going to have Ladarius Gunters or even Quinton Rollins who are running in the high 4.5s or anything. Likely not going to have those kind of guys, but
No.
but you think that for these guys on the athleticism side, they may skew more towards like the short area quickness, explosiveness, agilities times more than like just their straight line 40 times? Or is it kind of just, I know it depends who's available and stuff, but like if you told me that you have the elite straight line guy with okay agilities with okay to good enough agilities, or the elite agility guy with good enough speed, like do you think they would err towards the guy with the agility and explosiveness?
That's kind of what the Packers tend to do, is kind of err towards the agility and explosiveness because, if you look at their history of their corners they've drafted, outside of Jair and a few other guys here and there and stuff like that, they don't really draft super fast guys. They're usually low 4.5s, high 4.4s and stuff like that. I mean, even Jair was 4.39, and he was like one of the fastest corners they've ever drafted, really. So, they skew towards more agility, explosiveness, and stuff like that, rather than just pure straight line speed.
And I guess last one is any end of the draft guys that you have higher hopes for than where they're going to go in this one.
Let's see my list. Kind of a day 3 sleeper, kind of like a Donald Fortune from South Carolina. Fits the Packers thresholds. 6 foot 188, 31-inch arms, or almost 32-inch arms actually. Who else do I like? There's not a lot. Like some of the later round guys are kind of like outside of the thresholds, kind of, so to speak. Maybe got to keep an eye on him is maybe Eric Rogers from Rutgers. I don't have any official measurements on him, but last he was listed at was 6'2", 190. He showed some stuff this year from Rutgers. Again, not an elite athlete, but he's got good size and stuff like that. Just kind of look. Maybe Corey Black from Oklahoma State might be a day 3 guy that you could take a look at. Not a lot else. There's a lot of guys who kind of like are kind of more slots. Yeah,
and they have too many of those guys on the roster at this point. I think, like, obviously you always want to like increase talent when you can and stuff, but they do need more perimeter guys at this point. And not just perimeter guys. They need perimeter guys who can allow Halfley to run more man because, we saw there was a distinct difference in how he called his defense when he had Jair, and for that time after, when they, for the like 6 games where they were trying to figure out, is Jair going to come back? And you saw a lot of like cover 2, cover 3 with rotation, all that kind of stuff to like, really protect the perimeter corners and stuff. And we do know that Halfley would rather go on the offensive and, be aggressive with his calls and his coverages. And
Yeah.
like I said, that's why I do think they do everything they can to get Jair back for this season, because, you deal with the hand, and then you also draft guys who can potentially take that position to, take up that mantle, depending on how 2025 goes. But,
Right.
We hear the joke all the time that, different guys are banging the table in the draft room, but I don't think Halfley should have to do much table banging in this one, because everyone kind of knows where this, this is the spotlighted room, I think, of the roster at this point. That's like, you can argue about edge needs different kind of players, maybe tackle, wide receiver is on the horizon and all that kind of stuff. But corner is the like, corner is safety of last year, especially because like safety last year, you didn't address it in 2022, and so in 23 you had to address it, and now in 24, and especially because too, like, there's not, some people are like, oh, they have money to spend, but I'm like, there's not a corner that like has even like, oh, I'm feeling really good if that guy is CB2 on this roster kind of thing. Like,
Right.
it's I know some people are like, oh, like, has Valentine, but I'm like, I'd rather roll the dice on Valentine showing you, like, you just stick him at cornerback 2, and or whatever the however the order shakes out, and you gotta like, you're in his 3rd year of his rookie contract. He's still dirt cheap because you don't play him very much and stuff, despite the injuries his first 2 seasons. So, and we've seen, we saw the talent this year. And yeah, I think it's just a matter of getting more, athletic bodies in that room that let Halfley do what he wants to do. But how do you kind of see it playing out going into? I know that we're crystal balling it through 2 or a month and a half out of free agency, and what is it, 2.5 months out of the draft. But what is your, if you were Gutekunst, how would your wish list go into how you would handle addressing the room this offseason?
Yeah, I know some of the big Packers content creators. They specifically I know Nagler and what's the name from Pack a Day?
Herman, Andy.
Yeah, I can think of the name for a second. Herman, they both are like, they think Jair's gone. I mean, I guess that's the point of view. That's fine. I'm not trying to say they're wrong or they're dumb or anything like that, but I just, I don't agree with it. I think it just doesn't make sense to go into next year with Nixon, Valentine, and then who draft picks.
Yeah.
Especially if they have, Super Bowl aspirations. Goot basically said we're trying to like win a Super Bowl this coming year. We're tired of just been going to the wild card or whatever. They want to go to Super Bowl. So you don't cut or trade away your best player, basically. Well, supposed to be best player in defense. I mean, if he has injuries again this year, then I could see them cutting him or trading him or whatever. But if you're trying to win the Super Bowl like this coming year, you don't let go of Jair.
That's been the basis of my thought process. And I know, like, everyone's like, oh, but what did he say on exit day? I'm like, what is he supposed to say? Like, everyone's pissed off that the season ended the way it did. He's obviously upset how his ended. So it's like, he's not going to sit there and be like, oh, it was great. Like, I've got high hopes for 2025. Like, if you felt one way before, you're going to feel one way after. So it's like, I don't put too much weight in his comments, his exit comments this season.
Yeah, he's a guy. He's always kind of, as they say, held his heart on his sleeve or whatever. His emotions are always there. He's he doesn't tend to be too quote unquote PC, stuff, or like, he tends to just be honest and stuff. Yeah, like I said, I just don't. I don't, and I can't see them going into next year with Nixon, Valentine, and then some draft picks and be like, well, we're gonna go. We think this is good enough to take a Super Bowl. Like, and Valentine is one of my guys too coming out, but it's just
right.
It's not enough.
And then on the money side of it, like, I'm not going to go too deep into it or anything, but it's one of those where it's worth the money to try and see if you can figure it out for this season. You don't renegotiate, you don't push money out or anything like that. You leave the contract the way it is. You have more than enough money to do other window dressing and hole patching or extending, like a Zach Tom and stuff like that. But then, yeah, you just leave the contract the way it is, because if it doesn't work out in 25, 26, there's a lot more you gain by cutting him. Forget post June 1st. If you pre June 1st him, I think it's like 17 or something like that. So I that's why I just think that we agree in that point, that it's like you got to just that's Gutekunst and LaFleur's job is to conflict resolution, and so that's the first domino. But please continue.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's basically it. It just doesn't make sense to go next season with, like I said, because Nixon, he's okay. He played better on the outside than he did in the slot, but it wasn't anything special. It wasn't anything to write home about. Middle ground corner. Basically, average starter. Valentine again, kind of a average-ish starter. Still has talent and upside, of course, Valentine, but he hasn't shown it yet. He's a former 7th-round pick. Like I said back in his draft class, I had him I had a 4th round grade on the guy, so I liked him a lot too. But still, you don't go to your hopefully Super Bowl season with Nixon, Valentine, and King.
Yeah,
I mean, even though some people were saying coming into this past draft, they're like, "Oh no, the Packers are finding a corner. They don't need a corner. They don't need a corner." And I was like, "There's a lot of ifs in that cornerback group. I don't think it's a good idea." And then of course, it ended up biting in the butt, and that person ended up wrong. But
yeah. So I think Valentine is in this weird situation where, like, the first 2 years of his career, they're like trying. So his rookie season is kind of what, especially as a 7th-round pick, it's like, ooh, you made plays in preseason, ooh, we like you and stuff, like, but you're still a 7th-round pick. They're gonna play. Obviously, Jaw's gonna start. They still had Rasul. Stokes is trying to get back on the field and stuff. So it's like, and then this past year, you could tell when they like shut the door on Stokes, but they tried to keep that door open, which makes sense because that's a former 1st-round pick. For as much as people are like, boss, whatever, I'm like, you've still got to see if there's something behind that door. And they held it open for, as realistically, probably a game or two longer than maybe it should have. But at that point, there was a point during the season where, on one of our shows, I basically said, like, they're at the point where they should honestly just cut him. I think it was like week 12 or something. I was like, it's just better for everyone. He's getting like 12 snaps a game. He's not gonna, like, if he hasn't proven he deserves more than 12 snaps with no Jair, like, he's not going to just magically get it back, kind of thing. Like, it's probably, he's in a Kevin King situation. Right. And then on the backside of it's like, I know that you don't have a lot of options, but like, figure out if Valentine is more than just a guy in the room, or if like you can hang your hat on, him getting 50 snaps a game, kind of thing. And, guys that they've kept around, Rochelle, Haddon. I know that Haddon was only here, but like, they've talked up these different guys a whole bunch. And yeah, I just thought that, and it'll be interesting going forward, because it's like, okay, Valentine's a guy that probably should start next year, whether Jair is back or not. Right. But then what's going to happen if they take a guy 1st or 2nd round. It's like, that guy's got to start, kind of thing. And basically, so he's in that weird position where it's like, ooh, like, is he ever going to really? What was this? Post week 11, was that his shot to like earn his spot, kind of thing? And I hope not, because I agree with you. There's few guys who, when you watch their combine, their drills, and like, the one that always breaks my heart because the head on his shoulders was never good enough, was if you watch Demarius Randall's, his agility drills, and when he did the back pedal and the W drills and stuff, I'm like, that's textbook how you want that thing to look. There's no wasted steps. He's in and out in a snap. He's in and out of his transitions. Jair was pretty good about it. He just has kind of a weird gait to how he runs, kind of thing. Like, I always joke that he kind of runs like a toddler who like just started running but he's just freaking fast. And Valentine is pretty fluid too. And those are the kind of guys that it's like, I don't like you said, like Valentine, partly is because like his playing experience and his technique and stuff. And Jair shot up the boards as his final year in college. But when you have movement skills like that, those are the guys that I'm like, I joke that you draft athletes and let them learn how to football. Valentine's at the point where he's not going to gain, he's not going to learn anything more. And there's nothing in practice or drills that's going to like change what he is as a player. He's just gotta let him play and see like what you're gonna get out of him and stuff. So we'll see. It's Joe and I always use the term it's a fluid situation, but this one is definitely in a lot of flux this off season because there's just there's going to be shuffling of the deck and moving of the deck chairs. So we'll see where it ends up, and just expect a fully different room by the time that training camp opens. They just got to like we both kind of pointed at during this episode. They've got to. They just can't go into, if like we said, like Goot said, if the expectation is that this is year 3 of the love quarterbacking, and if you're going to compete for a Super Bowl, your quarterback room can't be a skip, hope, and a prayer. Like people will point to like, oh well, Sam Shields, but like they had Tremont, they had Charles. You had the idea that maybe Al Harris was going to come back off ACL and help you and stuff. You still had, at the time, they hadn't cut him yet, but what's it called? Oh, why can't I think of his name right now? BC. Sorry?
No, I was just joking. It's a Gunter.
Okay. No. Blackman. You still had Will Blackman who had flashed at times and stuff. But then, like, they take a flyer on Sam Shields, who becomes their nickel because it's like, okay, you need a guy who can just run really fast kind of thing. And, like, spend picks in the draft, but also, like, sign those kind of guys. Sign your equivalent, your Yosh Nijman equivalent at corner kind of thing. And just, like, that guy's big and fast and can turn, can flip his hips really well. So any last thoughts you got on this one, just the draft class overall, or anything that's picking your brain?
Yeah, no, it's a good, it's a good draft class. I like it a lot. Like we said, it's deep. At the top, there's basically a few guys, and then there's kind of a little bit of a drop, and then there's a bunch of guys. I know some people have said like, "Oh, it's not that great of a class because this guy is injured and that guy's injured or whatever." But like, I mean, like I kind of talked. Will Johnson was from what we can tell, it wasn't like a major injury,
right?
Yeah. If what do you call it? If this was the NFL and he had a game, he could play it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Michigan wasn't going anywhere this year. Like they were protecting his future assets too.
Of course,
yeah.
Yeah. Morrison is the only one that's got it. His medicals need to check out. Really, that could be worrisome. I think as far as the top guys. And I actually forgot to mention earlier. Siobhan Ravel. He's coming off the ACL as well. I know people have mocked him to Green Bay. And I liked him a lot coming out, especially coming off of his last year. In the summer, he didn't get a lot of talk or hype, but like he played really well last year actually for ECU. Yeah. Even though he didn't have big interception production, he was a lockdown corner even last year. I think had he not torn his ACL, he probably would be a top 15 pick anyway. But as we've talked about before in our chats and stuff like that, the Packers tend to be really conservative as far as injuries. This guy's coming into the draft coming off injuries. So I don't, even if he's there at 23, I don't see them taking him at 23. I mean, if they did, I'd be happy, of course.
Yeah.
Because I think he has Pro Bowl potential. But I don't think
he can have his own Antonio Cromartie Sr.
Basically, yeah, right?
That's a flashback for a lot of kids if you don't understand the reference.
Yeah. But I mean, he's like just under 6'2", 190 pounds. He has like 32 inch arms. He's going to run probably if he runs. I don't know if he'll run.
Yeah.
But he's a fast guy. He's athletic, freaky athletic guy too. So
yeah, really fluid mover. Yeah, like
for a guy that big, yeah, he is for sure. But I don't think the Packers would take him at 23. If he slips the second round, I mean, maybe, but I don't.
Maybe you do like the Jordy Nelson for him kind of, or like the Christian Watson kind of thing. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, right, maybe, but I kind of iffy on them doing that just because, like I said, they're really iffy about guys coming off injuries.
Yeah,
especially with the current group of guys with injuries, Jair and all that. So I don't think they want to be like, okay, let's go into training camp with two guys who could be injured and or may not be able to start training camp type of thing. That I don't think they're going to be too keen on that.
The only good thing for Ravel is he got hurt kind of early, yeah? Like,
Yeah.
it was, what, late September, early October he got injured?
Yeah,
So,
it was like week 4, I think it was. He got injured
yeah,
week 5.
so, yeah, so hypothetically, yeah, he could be
He-
back sooner than... It all depends, though. Is it just an ACL or is it, other stuff too? The dreaded other damage, yeah.
Supposedly it was just the ACL. He should be good to go for training camp, but I mean, he's going to miss rookie camp. He's going to probably miss
Yeah.
basically all of OTAs, stuff like that. So some of the Packers will be like kind of
Yeah.
wary of.
But yeah, no, just want to say thanks for coming on, Brian. Like I said, there is no red dot on his back or anything like that. Don't worry, folks. He is coming on, and we always appreciate having you on. But Brian, like, before we go, please let everyone know where they can find your work, what you're doing. I know this is your busy time of, well, if you're doing drafts, if you're doing good draft scouting, every part of the year is busy, but especially as we get into this,
Right.
the home stretch ahead of time, where can we find your work?
Yeah, of course. Obviously, just on X, at BMAFI NFL. I've been writing for Gridiron Heroics. I've been working on my final positional rankings. I have my quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends out. I'm still working on the offensive line. I was kind of waiting for some of the measurements to come in and just to see some of the Senior Bowl film and stuff, just to really solidify that O-line. Excuse me. Because it's just a really weird, I know this is not what we're talking about, but really weird O-line class this year. There's a ton of like college tackles who are probably going to play guard in the NFL. Maybe even some might even play center. So it's just a really weird class, and just I wanted to see some, I guess, measurements and see them against quote unquote NFL competition at the Senior Bowl and stuff. So the offensive line list should be coming out probably next week or something like that. And then of course I'll be writing for the Cheez It TV draft guide. This year I'll be doing edge rushers, and then I'll do my feature article as well. Everyone's favorite list of the guys who won't be Packers. But I've so far, fingers crossed, 2 years in a row, I've been 100% on it. So, other than that, those two things, I'm also on Blue Sky, but I'm not there as much. I'm trying to think of anything else. I try and post clips when I can, if anybody likes looking at clips of prospects. Just haven't been too busy kind of lately with Senior Bowl stuff going on and all that stuff. But when Senior Bowl ends, I'll try and get back to posting clips. So, yeah, that's about it. I can think
Right
of
on. No, thank you so much for coming on. Always put up the bat signal, and Brian always answers the call for us. So again, this is the first of our position group check-ins for the 2025 NFL draft, the draft that's being held in Green Bay itself. So that's exciting. The Packers will pick 23rd, and Brian's just giving you a good list of names who could be, that 23rd pick. Add 32 to that for their second round. So is that 55th pick or whatever? But yeah, thank you, Brian. Thank you for joining us. And as we always say, go Pack Go and aloha.
Green Bay hustle, grind it up. Hit the field, we don't bluff. Touchdown dances, feel the love. Jordan's got that MVP stuff. It's time for the up. Let's go. Packers bringing that show.
Plan on flying? It's time to upgrade to a Real ID. Because in order to board domestic flights, your driver's license or state-issued ID must be a Real ID, or you'll need another acceptable form of identification. So don't wait. Find out how to get your Real ID at tsa.gov/RealID. That's tsa.gov/RealID, or visit your local DMV. And then you'll be cleared for takeoff.
It's time for who wanna go, gonna blow.